The first 4 or 5 years, I wasn't exposed to a lot of other people besides our inner group anyway. And I was used to being the only kind of girl in that scenario. I mean, I have all brothers, no big deal. But then when I went to conferences and stuff is when I really realized. As a matter of fact, in the first 10 to 15 years, again, I was a young mom. I never met one other young mom that was a financial advisor. And that was lonely. I mean, again, bringing my brother in helped a ton with that. That's another reason why having Dan come in and surrounding me with the men that didn't ever make me feel like I shouldn't be doing it was very important.
Well, Lisa started, when she got out of college. Obviously, I think Lisa was told by her softball coach, Bill Lewis, that he could see her potentially being a financial advisor at some point and being a CFP, a certified financial planner. So she did that, and took that challenge, even though we talked about before, it was a challenge for her being a female in a pretty male-dominated industry at that particular time. It's getting better in that industry, in that part of it, thank goodness, but it still has some room to grow in that area. But then just as the growth, just watched her grow the business with hard work, discipline, making sure you take care of people. I remember seeing her late nights working, till 12 o'clock at night. People don't see us doing that. They see us when we meet them in the office.
Grant always made me feel like I should do it. Bill, he was only there for 3 more years after I got into the industry, but he never, ever had the conversation with me that, this is gonna be harder for you. He never allowed me to know it would be harder for me. And it was. To begin with, it was. Because I would call on people and I could hear in the background the husband saying, I'm not letting a woman take care of my money. And then they would come to the dinner seminar, and then somehow they'd end up with the appointment and become the client once they were exposed to the whole process and what it could be. I would go to conferences and I was somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's secretary. People would come into my office and I had a male assistant, which was really unusual, that first person I hired. And so everybody assumed that he was the advisor that didn't know us and that I was his assistant. And he was excellent at handling that, excellent. So when I did realize that is I also ended up surrounding myself with men that were my advocate and really helped me to continue to grow, became some of my best mentors. And the industry was just really different that time. The disappointing part is we're only at 18% now. Some of the men my husband said I would never get as clients, I took on as a challenge, and they were just challenging me. And I was used to being challenged. I was an athlete. Again, my mom would always challenge me, so those challenges I took on as future successes. Some of my first conferences and award banquets were very interesting. The first thing that I earned was this honor, and we had an initiation, and there was a night that everybody's gonna get the reward, and the rewards were a navy blazer and gray pants. And so I had done everything everybody had done to qualify for it, and I got there. And before I got there, they sent me a notice saying, now you realize that, you can bring what you want to wear. We don't have anything for the women that qualify for this. So I had to bring my own gray suit. And from that point on, I really worked towards that's not fair. We can wear a female lady blazer. The thing that surprised me is some of the other women that were advisors that fought that. I'll never forget the situation where one of the women wanted us to wear like a Miss America banner for this instead of the blazer. And I said, I had told all the other men that I was good friends with that I would not ever do that. I did not want to be different. I just wanted to be treated the same if I qualified for the same things. The other kind of cool story is that we get a ring and they didn't even have there are women's college professional rings. We got a man's ring. And so I was wearing it, and one of the wives of the other male advisors had asked my husband, why is your wife wearing that man's ring? And Grant said, he told me, don't you think she might be trying to make a point that there's not a reason why she shouldn't have a female ring? And eventually I got the female ring, it's beautiful, and I kept the other ring. So those things that just came along the way, I could be there were people before me and some women that I really admired, they weren't even allowed in the meeting. This one lady that I mentored under, she wasn't even allowed to go to the meeting that she qualified for. I was allowed in the meeting, I just wasn't gonna be given the same status. And now all of that, again, I've seen all that change so much. And now I just go to some of the conferences and the numbers are really starting to change. I enjoy the broker-dealer I changed to since 2016 because I had never seen a female executive in our industry. And Cambridge, which is the broker dealer I'm with now, has half of their executive teams, half of it are females. And there is nowhere else in the country, in our industry, that that's true. For me, that has been worth the journey. And my biggest, I would say, my biggest accomplishment that I consider my industry basically comes from all of that. There was a thing called the Circle of Honor that our entire broker-dealer, it was just all the producers, it was our own independent group all over the country, and they had officers. And you had to be nominated to go up the chain of officers by all the previous past presidents. I was the first and the only female to ever be nominated and became president of the Circle of Honor. That's to this day. Those were all male peers of mine. And these are even older male peers that it just, I don't think anybody but Grant really understands how important that was and how big of a thing that was to be chosen. And on top of that, once I did find out this industry was so male dominated, and I looked around me in other industries, I started to learn that with this situation and this independence that I could work harder and be smarter, and there would be no ceiling for me.